If you've been too busy and been procrastinating hiring somebody, you're not alone with that. And I can relate to this also because there are times in my business where I was just super busy and it was just like, okay, let me put my head down and just keep working and working, right? And because I could do it really fast and then it won't slow me down because then it won't slow me down because I know what to do. But if I hire someone, then I would need to train them. And so then, but then the problem is being caught in this cycle of being busy and then continue to be busy and busier until hitting breaking point where it's like I needed someone yesterday. And so that is something that is so important to not get to that point, because then you can end up getting burnt out. Like that you can reach a point where it's just like you don't even have the energy. For example, there's an acupuncturist I know who just kept putting her head down and working longer hours, staying later to fit patients in. And then she started to get a waiting list more. And then she started to get a month booked out. And then she started to get 2 months booked out. And then 2.5 months booked out. And then the people on that waiting list, some of them end up coming in, but then some of them end up dropping off and they don't end up having their appointment because it's so far out. And so she's losing business, right? It's like the business that you worked so hard for, to the patients you work so hard for, to be able to be the practice you work so hard for to be able to attract patients in like this, then they end up going to another practice. And so this is where it's so good to stay ahead of that from happening. And then that concern of not being able to afford someone, it's a valid concern. At the same time, it is true that there's going to be a certain time frame as you're looking at hiring where you might feel like you can't quite yet afford them. But if we can actually look at them as like they are an investment for us, and how can we have them as an investment? Because if you're doing it right, then if it's an admin hire, they are able to take time off your plate to where you can be seeing more patients and making more money from that. And then if you are hiring somebody who is actually seeing patients for you, they should be making money for you or they shouldn't be there. If you're at a point where you aren't sure whether you can keep them busy enough, then that's another story. Many of our clients work with us to help them get busier enough and have systems in place so that they can hire. In terms of affording them and being able to afford them, looking at it through those lens so that you don't end up being blocked by that fear of not being able to afford them. And then having a very clear picture of like what is break even point for where at a certain point in time, if they aren't actually seeing X number of patients a week by that point in time, then we need to wrap up this relationship, right? Kind of like having that understanding of that is also really helpful. But just know that there'll be a time frame where you'll likely feel like, oh, I can't afford it, but the leap needs to be made there. But the leap needs to be made. But the leap needs to be made. Something I've seen also is having a bad experience and then feeling gun shy, and then or feeling like it would be more stress if it didn't work out. Right? And so I think that it's normal for us to have those feelings. At the same time, also being clear about how if we don't do anything different, then we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten, which is that we just keep getting busier and busier till the point we can't really handle it and we're at like breaking point. So unless you just want to turn away patients to help, that's something to consider. As we grow, it's about us being able to step into becoming a better leader for the people we hire. And it's about also holding the faith that we will find the right person. And so part of it is about holding the faith that we will find the right person, and then having a good approach in place to attract, find that hire and screen them, and then also get them up to speed so that you could feel really good about them handling things and taking things off your plate, and that you can do what you enjoy most in your business, in your practice. You just need to be willing to get this figured out. These are things that aren't taught in school, but it's also things that can be learned. And it's also things that you could actually put structures in place when you know what structures to put in place and what processes to put in place. It does require being willing to step up more as a leader, because, when we are good at what we do as good clinicians, we're wearing the clinician hat. And that's a hat we get very used to wearing and we're really good at it. But then when we grow, the different hat to get good at is not necessarily just the clinician hat, but it's actually the CEO, the leader, the visionary hat. So how can you grow your leadership skills so that, and it's something that isn't always very natural for all of us. So how can we grow our leadership skills to be able to inspire other people to their best and to their fullest potential? It is possible to find a good hire, even if you haven't tried before, even if you don't know where to start, or you've tried before and you had a bad experience, or you tried before and it didn't really work out, or you couldn't find the right person. It's still possible. It's still available to you. It's a matter of keeping the faith and having a good process in place that supports that too. And so when you look back, then you'll be like, oh, I'm so glad that I now have someone who can help me and feel really supported in the next level growth of the practice versus just doing everything myself, or versus just, have you ever felt like even if you have a team sometimes that you still feel like it's a one-man show? Have you ever felt that way before? So that could be a sign that either you may not have the right people on the right seats of the bus on your team, or it could be a sign that it's time for a next level up leveling of your team. So I'm so excited for our 4 weeks to a new hire program that's coming up soon. And the reason I actually decided to hold it is because I have seen many holistic practitioners get to that point in their practice where they're really successful seeing patients, but then they end up hitting a plateau of growth because either they are scared of hiring people to help them because they don't want to be managing people, or they have hired before and it hasn't worked out, or they might have hired well, but now they are in a place where they need a replacement or a different level of a kind of a person. And so that's why I decided to create this, because there's nothing like it out there that can really support practitioners with this in this way, especially with my over 20 years of recruiting experience. And also having helped our clients go from either having their own practices, a solo practice, and then having their first admin or associate work well for them, to even growing practices that are multi-practitioner practices and even multiple locations, and having those practices run without them like a well-oiled machine. And so imagine having a practice where you can leave and then it's like, oh, money is coming in the door. And so without you feeling that dip in income. And so even if you're looking for your first admin right now, what can happen is you could be in that trajectory, because once you hire a first admin, then it can start to take things off your plate, and you could do things that are more valuable for the practice, like see more patients and bring in more revenue for the practice and help more people. If you are at the place of hiring associates, that's really exciting because it can actually allow your practice to help more people without it always being you seeing the patients. And if something unexpected were to happen, then you can still feel good in that people are still being helped, patients are still being helped, and money's still coming in the door. Or if you choose to take time off on vacation, that happens too. So I'm super excited to help you in 4 weeks to a new hire, that program, which is really helping you in 3 key steps. So number 1 is to help you with finding the right hire, and so attracting and finding the right hire. So most people just do job boards and then are sometimes disappointed by the pool of candidates. And even if you do use job boards, what are better options instead of just posting on sites like Indeed and then getting this like candidate pool, but there's a lot to filter through, right? So helping you with finding the right hire. And then also second step is in screening. So then how do you suss them out? How do you evaluate them? And do you have a good process for it to screen them out effectively and suss them out so that you have a right fit? Because the difference between someone who is a right fit versus not can be the difference between heartache versus feeling really good about who you have. And so really helping you with that, and what is a good screening process. And I will tell you, it's not just about interview questions or reference check questions. It's multi-dimensional. And so what could that be for you? And so really helping you with that and putting structures in place for that. And then the third step is onboarding. So even if you have the right hire, but then if they're not set up for success, they could still end up not working out very well, or they can get really frustrated in their position, or you might get really frustrated. So do you have a 90-day onboarding plan in place that supports your new hire well? And then that way they have a lot of synergy with your team. You enjoy working with them, and they're also doing things up to your standards so that you can walk away and feel like everything's taken care of while money is coming in too. So really helping you with that, really helping you with those 3 steps. And then anything we have done for you, frameworks for and templates for that can help with shortcutting the process to half your hiring time, I'll give it to you, to half your hiring time. So also, what it's going to be is there will be 4 live sessions where I'm going to be helping you step by step through this. And you will also have a bonus Q&A call on onboarding to set you up for success there, and on automation too. Because while you are growing your team, it's helpful to have certain things in an automated way, like how are you going to communicate in different ways, or documentation and things like that. What's the best way to do that without having to, for example, always be printing out new SOPs, standard operating procedures. And so helping you with that. You'll enjoy getting feedback about your specific situation to really optimize growth of your team. And then it's also going to be wonderful because, many times these kinds of things, it's hard to just talk to your spouse about. These kinds of things are hard to just talk to your spouse or friends about, because they don't really understand your business from this kind of perspective. And so it's really helpful to be around other holistic health practitioners who are on this trajectory as well, because you're going to hear of best practices of theirs and what's working about certain things, and be able to apply that and pull your practice forward much faster than going at it alone as well. So I am super excited for you, and it's coming up soon. So go ahead and register now, and you can click on the link and register now. And I can't wait to help you.